freaks and geeks. The freaks and geeks. Like, don't dance, don't dance, don't dance. Sorry. Yeah, play it cool.
Hello, hello. Welcome to Trash Opinions, where we talk all things trash. I am your host, Trash, and today we are talking about Island of the Idols, a season that is not well regarded in the slightest. And first off, I will say that I debated including Rob and Sandra as characters on this season, but I felt that since they weren't actually playing the game, just there as guides, I wouldn't. But if I did include them, they would be at the top. They are just so entertaining every time they're on screen. Their chemistry is fantastic. That was such a great idea, and I wouldn't mind seeing something like that again. It's a great way to bring back winners and celebrate legacy without making them play again, so I'm sure most of them would agree to it. You could do this with anyone. You could do Sarah and Tony, Jeremy and Natalie, Parvati and Yule. All those sound fun. The idea to have Rob and Sandra sitting in a little shack during tribal council is also an absolutely brilliant idea. Rob and Sandra just added so much to this season, and it's a shame the turd in the punch bowl had to spoil the entire thing. A lot of people say, oh, without the dance stuff, this season is really good. I'm still not drinking any of that punch because there's a turd in it. No matter how much you argue that the punch was perfectly fine without the turd, there's so many awesome things on this season that were ruined forever, and I wouldn't be surprised if none of these characters made a return just because CBS would want to distance themselves that much from this season. It sucks because Island of the Idols could have been so good, but unfortunately, it's really hard to rewatch. Before we get into it, can you like, comment, and subscribe, all that jazz? And without further ado, let's get into Island of the Idols. And we will start off the crap Sunday with all the crap that was poured on top of it, and that is Dan Spilo. Why the hell wasn't this guy purpled? That is my main number one gripe with this season. Did he really have such a great personality that they just needed to give him confessionals? Oh man, let's see what insight Dan has on the game. Why? Production already knew what was going to happen with Dan, so why didn't they just scrub their hands clean of him and just barely show him up until the end where they go, by the way, Dan was ejected, and it would immediately explain why this guy would be invisible. I would have respected that so much more, but nope, he's a main character. Why would you do that? Why are you trying to get me to root for Dan Spilo? Why are you trying to make me feel something when his son comes to visit? Why are you treating him like you would any other member of the cast? Just don't show him. It's that easy. He sucks. Understatement of the year. He makes all the women uncomfortable by trying to give them massages and touching them when they're really not comfortable with it, but this is also Survivor where you don't want to rock the boat, so it creates a very uncomfortable situation, as you can imagine. Then he's ejected, but it's not for being inappropriate with the cast, but for being inappropriate with a member of production. CBS can excuse sexually harassing members of the cast, but when it's members of production, that's where they draw the line. No jury, no reunion, bye-bye Dan. At the finale, so we get 12 wonderful episodes with Dan Spilo as a major supporting character and being one of the main allies of the winner. Never have I seen a guy single-handedly ruin a season. Ted was not the only reason Thailand sucked, and Game Changers had bigger problems than just Varner, but Dan sunk this season. This could have been a top tier season, but between Dan's actions and how poorly production handled the situation, like they didn't just eject the guy immediately when it started happening, which is what should have happened, coupled with the baffling decision to give him a decent edit, are the main factors that turn Island of the Idols into a bottom tier season that nobody enjoys returning to. It's so uncomfortable, it's painful to get through. I'm also not equipped to really talk about this on a deep level, so I won't attempt to. It makes the season become just such a tough watch. Fuck Dan, he's the worst of the worst. He's dethroning Ted as the worst Survivor character ever. Straight into the volcano. So glad we got that one out of the way. Now the next one coming up is Tom Laidlaw. Tom's just kind of a dad. He lays around in the shelter all day instead of strategizing, which keeps him at the bottom despite him thinking he's doing fine for some reason. Tom is not a good player. I mean, I respect the guy for playing Survivor at 60, but he doesn't seem to understand the whole social aspect of the game. He's also just kind of devoid of personality. He's a total dud, and worst of all, he's Canadian. Meh. Next in the mediocrity pool, we are going to the first boot, and that is Ronnie Barda. Ronnie's kind of a moron. He David Sampsons himself out of the game by thinking endgame on day 3 and targeting Elaine because everyone liked her. The problem with that plan is, everyone likes Elaine. And nobody trusts Ronnie, so the numbers get flipped back on him. The edit on Ronnie here is weird. We get nothing other than he's a poker player, and that he's targeting Elaine. That's all there really is to him. He goes out humble bragging about his charmed life, but we really don't see anything of note from him. Ronnie ends up one of the most forgettable first boots ever. He's going in meh. After that, we have Molly Byman. Molly's decently fun. I love the scene of the clan blasting her with water jets as she's holding it. Shelter used hydro pump. She's in the same situation one of the blondes from the Fans tribe and Kara Moen found themselves in. I think it was Allie, where she's part of the cool kids and sniped out by the nerds to weaken the kingpins in Jack and Jamal. But that's really it. Molly is just kind of there until she's not. She's going in there. Next up, we have Aaron Meredith. Aaron is immediately established as Alpha Bro leader. He gets blindsided as the only one left out of the Ronnie vote, and he's really pissed. Then he's invisible. Then come the swap, Aaron doesn't flip to Jason's side of things during his boot, which pisses off Jason as he exclaims not to trust Aaron while leaving. Come the terrible marriage episode, Aaron then goes full manosphere by talking about how Janet's assuming the role of the victim, and just a lot of terrible takes. Veiled victim blaming, all that fun stuff. Aaron is just kinda boring too. There's really nothing about his personality that makes him stand out from all the other athletic physical threats who get voted out at first opportunity during the merge. He's just also a bit of a dick. He's going in meh. And look at that, we are already in the rootable tier, and here to start us off, we have Chelsea Walker. Chelsea starts the season off by already not being stoked about the season's theme being based around idols. She starts fire herself, which causes Tom to feel less manly for some reason. She then finds an idol, making her comments about the theme kind of ironic. It's not as ironic as talking about how much she loves blindsides and how exciting they are, especially when they get blindsided with an idol in their pocket, and then getting blindsided with an idol in her pocket because she was just too close to Dean. Chelsea is kind of forgettable outside of her blindside, but I could throw her at the bottom of Fun Downfall. Next up, we have someone I debated putting a little lower, but here we have Elizabeth Beisel. Elizabeth gets the tribe all excited about her being an Olympian, and I'm sure in the back of their mind they're like, she better not be another Crystal Cox. She's the first sent to Rob and Sandra Island, and for some reason thinks she could beat Rob in firemaking, and loses her chance for an idol and her vote. She then goes back and lies about what happened, which I don't get because other people are going to be going to the Island of the Idols too, and when they realize, wait, why didn't Elizabeth bring up that Boston Rob and fucking Sandra were here, and not to trust her? But everyone else just lies about it too, so whatever. Once it's the merge, Elizabeth has a shitty heel turn where she sells out Janet and ruins the plan to vote out Dan. She also just goes on this pick-me confessional spree where she's all, well, I never felt uncomfortable, so it's not a big deal. And my eyes rolled so hard my head went with it. She then gets voted out on a revote tie thanks to Karishma's idol play and joins the jury. Elizabeth was a decent villain, I guess. I can throw her in mildly entertaining. After that, we have the winner of the season, Tommy Sheehan. As boring of a character Tommy is, he's probably one of the greatest social players of all time. He plays what is almost a perfect old school game, and you can compare his win to the likes of Earl Cole or JT Thomas, except shit, I'd put him even on more of a pedestal than them because I think his ability to overcome Aubrey Bracco levels of bad luck puts him in a level above them. He loses one of his goats in Dan, and it looks like he's probably going to be next, but no, Janet and Lauren are miraculously viewed as bigger threats, and he somehow gets Nora to save him at the Final Four. He may not be captivating television, but the dude's an amazing player. He just doesn't have much of a story, and him winning doesn't make anyone feel good about the rest of the season leading up to that point. Tommy is probably the most milquetoast winner we've ever had. If he was a spice, he'd be flour. But you can't help but respect the guy who played a middle school Survivor winning season in season freaking 39, and if he ever returns, I think he might be able to last longer than people would expect him to. The dude's kind of a genius. He hovers around Lauren as she's practicing fire to make her nervous and emotional. He's capable of deep level manipulation. He has an amazing final tribal council performance where he just articulates his game and ends up on good standing with the jury as they award him with the win. A boring win, sure, but a win well deserved. This is the Gavin win that would have been if it weren't for Chris Underwood. Tommy is going into good player. Next up, we have someone I expected to like a lot more, and that is Jack Nichting. Jack's entire run was defined by his impulsivity in calling Jamal's buff a do-rag. Shit happens. I'm glad Jamal and Jack could turn it into something positive. That's all I really have to say about that. Before that, he was in the Cool Kids Alliance with Molly and Jamal before being blindsided on that second vote, and while we got to see Jamal's rise from the bottom, we really don't see Jack's. He's kind of purple despite being memorable for the do-rag comment. It sucks because Jack's a totally affable dude, but he just ends up kind of like Alec Christie to me. Shame, because he was seconds away from making the merge and he gets idled out of the game. It really sucks because we could have gotten so much more from Jack. Regardless, I still end up kind of liking the guy, and he can go towards the bottom of fun downfall. And now going to the opposite end of that spectrum, we have somebody that I ended up liking a lot more than I thought I would, and that is Vincent Moa. I have heard nothing of Humang, and it's nice of CBS not to tell us about it, just instead cut Vince off at not many people know about it. He's just kind of an awkward guy. He doesn't seem to know how to socialize that well. He goes to the Island of the Idols, and Rob and Sandra give him a stealth ninja mission, which I must admit is a fun part of pre-merge. Him getting frustrated with Karishma having no grasp on the game is also pretty enjoyable. I also don't know why he didn't play as idol. He was definitely on the outs from the start, and returning from IOI, possibly with an idol, could only exacerbate things. I would have played the idol as insurance there, but oh well, hindsight is 2020. Vince is alright. I found myself liking him for what he was, and I can throw him towards the bottom of mildly entertaining. Next up, we have someone who is known as one of the greatest players never to make the merge, and here we have Jason Linden. Jason pulls a Mike White and becomes sus for looking for the idol day one. He then pairs up to Nora as the two outcasts of the tribe, but then Jason starts showing the tribe that he's the man. He leads his tribe to a clutch immunity win, and it's looking like that perception of him has changed. Unfortunately for Jason, he gets swapped into a 4-4 split tribe swap, and Elaine finds the block a vote advantage and uses it on him. Jason was fairly competent as a strategist, which is why he was chosen as the target for his vote. They had a bevy of threats to vote out, and Jason was the one chosen, which speaks a lot for him, honestly. Jason could have been a great character, but unfortunately doesn't get to that point where he can. He goes out saying don't trust Aaron, and his alliance is incredibly sad to see him go. Lauren is even crying. Jason would be a shoo-in if they ever did an early boot season. He could have done some damage had he got to the merge. He can go into fun downfall. Next up, we have Kelly Kim. Kelly could have been a very enjoyable personality on the season, but unfortunately Kelly's run on the season carries a ton of baggage, and it would be disingenuous not to address it. Kelly was in a very unfortunate situation by being one of the women who were victimized by Dan and the one who spoke out, which unfortunately led to her vote out. It was a Gandia situation, but in 2019, and the way Survivor handled it was just all sorts of wrong. I'm glad they recognize how bad they fucked up today, because I'm not sure if they could have handled this any worse. I can't not feel really bad for Kelly for having a tainted Survivor experience, and I would love to see a happy ending where Kelly plays again and gets to rewrite her Survivor career. I'm not sure if that would ever happen though. Sucks, because Kelly was a very entertaining character throughout. Kelly says meeting Rob and Sandra is way better than meeting Cochran, and boy, that's an understatement. I'm not even being mean, I'm sure Cochran would say the same thing. She gets the talk at you test, which I would fail so horribly it's not even funny, but she surprisingly passes with flying colors. She then finds a second idol and has two coming into the merge tribal, which is wild. I don't know why she didn't play one of them as an insurance at the merge. Like, why not? Everyone knew she was a threat because Nora blew up her spot in the round before, but whatever, hindsight is 2020. It sucks she went out this way with everything that happened to her ruining her game. I would have to say she should go and deserved better. And getting into that great tier, we have Missy Bird. Hearing her talk about her brain tumor hit kinda hard. I'll start this off by saying that Missy is a goddamn warrior. She orchestrates the Chelsea blindside, and it was a great move. Nobody would agree on Dean, nobody would agree on Karishma, so Missy just turns the vote onto the last person you'd expect. Missy then wants to use Karishma to vote out Tommy, but Karishma is letting her paranoia take over, leading to a hilarious scene where Karishma keeps walking away as Missy's talking to her, and Missy's going, "Karishma, come here." Like, I'm literally trying to save you right now, but Karishma just nopes the hell out of that conversation as Missy stands there literally with her jaw dropped. Ironically enough, her trying to save Karishma is what leads to her downfall. Elaine sees it as Missy bullying Karishma, so Elaine blows up the plan to vote out Tommy, causing the Tommy side of things to turn the vote on to Missy. She has an eventful exit too, it's so entertaining. She grabs the wrong torch at first and is just hugging and whispering things into people's ears, really milking it as Sandra goes, "Alright, Missy, it's over." It's great. Missy is someone I would be excited to see coming back, but I'm not sure if they ever would. She's a very entertaining character her entire way. I love her pretending to eat popcorn on the jury whenever it's a live tribal. She's going and entertaining. Coming up next, we have Dean Kowalski. Dean is the pretty boy of the season. Everyone seems to be commenting on how hot he is, especially Nora. Dean has a badass idol play before the merge, but Dean's pretty invisible for most of the first half of the game. Jamal gives him the fake legacy advantage in order to put a target on Dean's back, and Dean thinks he's sneaky in making a fake advantage to give to Jeff so that the tribe would think that it was a fake advantage. But really, the real advantage is in his pocket the whole time, but it's not a real advantage, and oh dear, I've gone cross-eyed. It's ironic that Dean calls Nora and Karishma the GOAT army, because Dean is just as much of a GOAT if we're being completely honest. Not factoring Dan in, I think the only Final 3 he wins is a Dean, Karishma, Nora Final 3. Dean does nothing the entire game, until randomly becoming an awesome character at the very end. He outsmarts Tommy to find the idol nullifier, and he's actually playing hard, and he beats Lauren in firemaking to make the Final 3. Too bad he did it with absolutely no win equity, or he might have actually pulled out the win, but nope, Dean is just as much of a GOAT as the rest of the GOAT army. He got extremely lucky with the Dan ejection. He might have gone out earlier if Dan stayed in the game. When he gets to tribal council, people realize that they don't really know Dean, and to be fair, he's still an enigma to me. He just gives really hollow answers to things, and I think it's why he doesn't win. His big bombshell is also a benign dud when Jamal reveals his legacy advantage was a fake the entire time, which is hilarious. And then he gets called out on his shit when he says he never made Final 2 deals with anyone when he did. Dean is hilarious, but we only get so much Dean, because he doesn't wake up as a character until the very end, but boy does he wake up. I'm gonna put the pretty boy GOAT in entertaining. And starting off the section of truly great players, we started off with Lauren Beck. I would go to her 30th birthday Barbie carnival. Lauren plays low-key in the pre-merge, but builds a relationship she needs to thrive. Her and Tommy dominate the game together from the bottom, convincing the tribe to vote out Kelly at the merge, saving Dan. So, Lauren Beck is a heel. Despite any ickiness in hindsight, Lauren is still really fun and a bubbly personality who is incredibly intelligent both socially and strategically, and she probably would have won the game had she gotten to the end. I think the only person who beats her there is Janet. Maybe Elaine, but I don't know. Lauren is Nora and Tommy's number one the entire merge, and she's expecting one of those relationships to get her out of fire making, but Nora's Nora, and she goes, "You're my best friend, and that's why you have to make fire," because, of course, thank you, Nora, very cool. Lauren is in tears as she's practicing fire, and she's not having any of Nora's shit. Nora is telling her to be humble, and that's the pot calling the kettle black. She's not making Lauren feel any better. Since Janet didn't win, you go into fire making hoping Lauren can pull this out and the win, but sadly she falls short in a close battle and can't make fire before Dean. Lauren was an amazing player and only received a single vote at the Janet boot all game. It sucks so bad that she loses, and she can go into entertaining. And right above her we have Jamal Shipman. Jamal is great. He starts off as the leader of the Cool Kids Alliance with Molly and Jack until he gets blindsided on the Molly boot. He then finds an idol now that he's on the bottom, and he gets swapped into a favorable position with his main ally Jack by his side. Jamal then gets some powerful content when Jack calls Jamal's buff a do-rag, and Jamal and him have a really nice nighttime chat about race as Jamal gets the sincere apology from Jack he was looking for his entire life with people, which was just a really nice moment. It's cool how they have a podcast together now. After that scene, it seems to just become Jamal's job to explain social issues to the audience, but Jamal does a good job at it, and he never comes off as preachy or antagonistic. However, I don't think he's omniscient. He can be sexist too. Unfortunately, Jamal comes into the merge with virtually no allies left, and he's just kinda hanging out on the bottom with Karishma and Nora. Gets blindsided by the Kelly vote, but then he's going to the Island of the Idols, and maybe he has a chance for an idol, and nope, there's no free lunches on Survivor, except the times when there are. Hey Dean, you want some fish? He then has an amazing speech at Tribal Council, because he's that guy now. I told you, that's just his job now, during one of the worst episodes of the entire series. I got a lot of love for Jamal. He got to speak his piece before going out, and I wouldn't mind seeing a return from the big guy. I'm gonna throw him in entertaining. And now, getting to the top four, where we reach another tier. We start off with Elaine Stott. Elaine is immediately a super likable tomboy who establishes herself as a hard worker who grew up on a farm. Elaine's a lot of fun and really funny, continuously making her tribe laugh, and it causes Ronnie to target her first, which causes his downfall because they like Elaine more than shady-ass Ronnie. Elaine is really personable and a go-getter, immediately jumping on the chance for an advantage from Rob and Sandra without thinking of the repercussions. It works out for her, and she gets a vote blocker, causing Jason to be voted out. Come to merge, Elaine votes out Missy, which I'm not sure is the best option for her since it did give Tommy and Lauren's side of things more power. Her loved one's visit is super adorable too. I think her and her girlfriend are such a cute couple, and it's nice hearing about how her girlfriend's kids accepted them. She goes out making you feel really bad that she's leaving. She's opening up about her mom's passing, she's making a lot of really good points of why she should stay, and she's just tugging at your heartstrings. You almost want to cry when she's voted out. She was just such a fun character, and I'm glad she got to have a deep run. Elaine is amazing. I'm going to put her in love. At number 3, we have Karishma Patel. Get someone to love you the way Karishma loves Applebee's. Everyone is so fucking mean to Karishma. It makes me angry. She cuts her hand on the machete, and she's saying how she feels lightheaded, and she can see the bone, and nobody gave a shit. They just all continued eating and carrying on their conversations, while Karishma literally is on the ground trying not to faint. It was frankly kinda gross. Karishma is such a treasure. She's a fantastic character, and I'm glad she got to have a decently long run despite being pretty much a pariah the whole time. I don't understand how she made the merge. She is an absolutely terrible player, and she might be up there on the worst players to ever make the merge. However, that doesn't take away from the fact that Karishma is an absolute treasure, and I love her every step of the terrible gameplay decisions way. Karishma is just way too in her own head for Survivor, and I understand being that way. I'm not judging her for it, just that's something you need to suppress when playing Survivor. She's just so down on herself, and it becomes becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I feel really bad for her as she keeps shooting herself in the leg because I'm not sure if she realizes she's even doing it. She is incredibly rootable too. Her opening up about how she feels about her own arranged marriage was some great interesting content we haven't seen yet on Survivor. There's surprisingly been a huge lack of Indian American US Survivor players too, now that I think about it. Karishma plays a lot like Sugar, where she doesn't have any alliances, she just goes with whatever side is nice to her that day. The problem is, everyone treats her like an idiot, and she's aware of it, so she's perfectly willing to go against the plans to shake things up as an emotional response, which is not a goat you'd want around, so essentially she fails at failing. As a human being, I get it. They were just kind of using Karishma and nobody really showed her any respect. I'd be pissed too, just it's incredibly bad gameplay. She's essentially if a first boot got lucky and made the merge, and I couldn't be happier that she did. Out of nowhere, she has an amazing idol play at Final 9 where she negates 7 votes to cause a 1-1 tie, sending Elizabeth home on a revote, not to mention causing Lauren to waste her idol. It was some badassery you did not expect from Karishma. I expected her to misplay that thing, honestly. Karishma's loved one's visit is also really cute, and she's extremely pissed when she's not chosen to go on the loved one's reward. She wants to take a wrecking ball to someone's head. Yes, queen. I love her face when she's saying, "That's exactly what I want." It's so creepy. It's hilarious. The tribal where she goes home is absolutely insane, but also anticlimactic as the easy vote gets chosen and Karishma goes home. Boo. Karishma was a delight her entire run, and I don't think she's ever going to return because, man, what a terrible player, but I love her. She's going in love. Top 2. Who's it gonna be? Number 2 is Janet Corbin. Janet comes into the season immediately knowing the older woman is something of an easy vote early in the merge, so she makes like Arthur Brown and starts fire. Janet is so incredibly rootable, and she just seems like a genuinely good person, and it's a big reason why she's so incredibly endearing. She's among the top tier of Survivor moms. She was the only one sticking her neck out for Dan's victims, and everyone was treating her like she was crazy, and it just goes to show how genuine of a person Janet is. She stood her ground while others were trying to make her feel small. It's like a social anxiety horror film, watching her be the only one in the right here, while everyone else is just treating her like she's overreacting. I'm glad she was able to have a heart-to-heart with the rest of the tribe and clear the air there, while Dan's just channeling Game Changer's Varner. She then finds an idol which she misplays at the Jamal boot. Despite being a huge threat on the bottom, she's kept over keeping around Aaron and Elizabeth, and eventually Karishma and Elaine, and surprisingly she finds herself with a possible path to the Final Four. However, due to the idol nullifier and Janet being a little too loose with the information about her idol, Dean plays solemn judgment and Janet is sent home packing. Janet wins if she survives that vote. I think she beats anyone in fire and beats everyone else at the end. I think Janet was a giant jury threat that got so close but couldn't close it in the final stretch. It would have made up for how shitty the season was if Janet won, since she's such a fantastic and genuine character, and was the only one playing with her heart out there the entire time. Janet deserves nothing but the best, and is genuinely an amazing person, and she belongs in love. My number 1 should be no surprise to anyone. You all know how I love my train wrecks. But here we have Nora Salmon. Nora is immediately a huge loudmouth, annoying everyone by complaining about everyone's work ethic to everyone. She buddies up to Jason as the two outcasts, and their dynamic couldn't be more opposite of each other. I love him saying, "Don't dance, play it cool," as she's doing a celebratory dance. It's great. I also love the series of confessionals of other players talking about how they don't want to volunteer to go to the island of the idols because of the target it puts on your back, and Nora just breaks that up by going, "Yeah, I'll go." I mean, who views Nora as a threat? I've also never seen anyone scream that loud over watermelon. Nora is just ridiculous. Her mouth runs a mile a minute and her brain's not really good at catching up. Her Island of the Idols task is to convince her tribe to let her be the caller for the next challenge, but it backfires and instead she's actually the one sitting out, because that's how little faith her tribe has in her in a decision-making role. It's hilarious, and she loses her vote. Nora is the best kind of train wreck. She's such a bad player that she makes charisma look competent. She doesn't stop talking. She says everything that's on her mind. She's a loose cannon. She blows up everybody's secrets at Final 8. And it's insane that she does this. It results in one of the most explosive tribals of the entire series. It's some of the worst gameplay on a season that already has a ton of terrible gameplay. She's yelling out not to trust Dean and just in general being a crazy woman. It's amazing television. I love how after she wins the final immunity, she starts spilling out this stream of consciousness rant about how Lauren's the best and she needs to put Lauren up on fire because Lauren's more dangerous than Tommy. And Dean, you're on fire, so that's why you're making fire. And it's all ridiculous. Nora does not know how to turn it off, and I love it. She is amazing. She is the brightest spot on this shit heap of a season. However, as far as players go, she might be one of the worst runners-up of all time. Her game was absolutely abysmal, and I don't see any situation where she gets a single vote. She also got extremely lucky. She was the target on a lot of rounds, but managed to escape being the vote multiple times. The Dan ejection also helped her game a lot, since she was now their new GOAT. She also doesn't do herself any favors at Final Tribal Council, because she doesn't shut up. People are telling her to stop talking, she's going, no, guys, it's like a date. Let me tell you this story about my ex real quick. I love her. Nora is a hot mess, and she is going into favorite. Alright, and that was Island of the Idols, and I'm gonna be honest, it had a lot of entertaining ingredients to the Survivor sauce of this season. Unfortunately, it's spoiled, thanks to Dan. I never want to watch this season again. It's so incredibly uncomfortable. Like, that merge episode is among the worst episodes in the entire series. I absolutely hate it, and if you stopped watching this season at that point, I would not have blamed you. I feel like if it weren't for the next season being what it was, Survivor might have died here. Of course you were coming back for that one, come on. Next up, we have Winners at War, one of the most, actually the most anticipated season of Survivor ever, really. The fact that they brought back 20 winners is insane and like it's a who's who of Survivor winners too. There's not a lot of names that make you go, really, that guy? It's kind of like, you get it, like there's no Bob Crowleys, there's no Fabios, there's no like terrible winners on this season. Like the worst ones are people like Ben, which is like whatever. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you made it to this far, you are amazing. And I hope to see you at Winners at War. Goodbye.